You may already know this, but I really like Pokemon. So I'm gonna make something in honor of a Pokemon that I hated as a child. I despised this Pokemon. It scared me and it kept winning. It kept winning against me, and it was very frustrating to like 7-year-old me. So then I got older and I figured out the reason that it kept kicking my butt was because it was a really good Pokemon and I should probably catch it. This week we are actually going to make a Haunter earring. So for this week, here's what you need.
A measuring tape, an earring stud and back, some 18 gauge silver wire, some wire cutters, some needle nose pliers or house pliers with duct tape. A glaze you like to use, I use Mod Podge. Some shrink film, brand of your choosing. The template, which can be found on the blog or on Instructables. Coloring implements. Some thin silver chain. And some glue. Alright, so first things is to put the shrink film over the template and color into your liking. Now, Haunter, it's a little hard to find images of his hands separately, so I just took the same image and cut it up. You're gonna kind of have to connect the dots in some places with my template, but I managed to make it work, so I assume you can as well. The basic rule here, especially with shrink film, is to make it lighter than you think you want it to be, because it will get darker in the oven. Then of course cut everything out in a manner of your choosing. I like my box cutter, but you can also use an X-Acto knife or a pair of scissors if you're good at it. Then to make for cleaner edges, you want to take a black marker and color around the outside. It just makes everything look a lot cleaner and it can help even out your lines. Then go ahead and glaze your pieces with either Mod Podge Dimensional Magic or nail polish or other glazes that you like to use. While your glaze is drying, you're going to be creating your ear cuff, which sounds a lot trickier than it actually is. Just cut off 4 inches of wire. Depending on how big your ears are, you might have to adjust this. You're just going to have to make a few and find out. And then what I like to do is lay it down on the measuring tape and actually mark the 1.5 inch mark and the 3 inch mark, because that's where you're supposed to be bending, and it's a lot easier if you mark it first. Now, you want to bend the first mark up and the second mark down. Now, you don't want to bend it all the way into a point. I just do 90 degrees and then bend the rest with my finger. Then take each end and roll it up into a little loop so it's nice and rounded and not going to poke anybody. Especially for the one on the bottom, which is mostly your choosing, you want to make sure that's a nice big loop that you can open again. Then, what you're going to want to do is take a marker of some kind. I found a Sharpie worked really well for me, and curve it around it so you get a nice U shape. Then lastly, take your pliers one more time and just ever so slightly bend those ends inward to make it more circular. Now the next step is to glue your chains and Haunter's bottom hand to your earring stud. Now, I like to push this into something like an old candle. It just makes it a lot easier. And then you're going to want to take 2 lengths of chain. Try not to get your finger as much as in the super glue as I do, but hey, we each have our own process. And have 1 length of chain that is pointing downwards and 1 length of chain that is pointing upwards. And then finally add Haunter's hand on top with his top pointing straight up. Now throw on the ear cuff and make sure it fits. You might need to pinch it to make sure it really stays in place. Once the stud is dry, throw it on and figure out how long you want each length of chain to be. You want 1 length of chain to be pretty short and tight, just because that's where Haunter's body is going to be, and another one to be long and pretty. Once you have your lengths of chain figured out, I made my long one about 3 times as long as my short one. You then want to throw it onto the ear cuff. Just open up the bottom loop and throw the chain links on, and then close it back up. Then take your glue and glue Haunter's top hand onto the ear cuff, lining up the chain links between the 2 hands. You're going to want to play around with the alignment a little bit as to how you like it, but once you find a position you like, go ahead and lay everything down face down and then glue the entire short chain to Haunter's body. Anywhere the short chain goes over Haunter's body, you want that completely glued down, otherwise he's going to be flipping around. And then go ahead and take your longer chain and stick it into the glue. You can measure if you like to get an exact loop, but I just kind of eyeballed it. Once it's dry, you are done. You have an adorable haunter earring who looks like he's trying to attack people all the time, which I personally